Hey everyone, Railen here. I don't know why my mouse suddenly isn't tracking. Oh, now it is. Okay. So yeah, a long time since I last did a video. I'm going to be reacting to a Leaflit video here. And she is reacting to CashJordan. So yeah, we'll be doing that real quick. Well, 24 minutes. I watched it last night, basically before falling asleep, and, you know, it triggered something and I wanted to react to it. So let's go.
Mamdani's lockdown backfires, city implodes as mobs ambush NYPD. Residents are trapped by CashJordan.
Police officers were ambushed by mobs, and the new socialist mayor has yet to say anything.
It's funny that they blurred it out for one of the snowballs, I guess.
A planned snowball fight in Washington Square Park on Monday is now drawing sharp criticism after some people began pelting multiple NYPD officers with snow. Tim McNicholas is
I can already see the left's reaction to this and how it's being reported on the right. I can see the left going like, it's just snowballs. And I mean, sure, if it's one or two, or if you're, you know, voluntarily involved in it, but the police obviously aren't. If they joined in and threw a couple snowballs and suddenly started crying about it, then sure. But obviously it doesn't seem to be what's happening here, according to the footage at least.
Lane and Tim, what are you hearing?
It looks like they're being chased by a
The
mob.
snowball fight was planned on social media and drew a large crowd to Washington Square Park.
This is crazy.
A similar snowball fight happened during the last big snowstorm just weeks ago, but this time around, Commissioner Jessica Tisch says some people went too far. She's calling it disgraceful and an illegal attack on officers.
Yeah.
Video.
It does sound very silly, but yeah, it's probably going too far.
Online show how multiple cops were repeatedly pelted
They're actively aiming for their heads
with snowballs.
Like, that guy in the front there, his hat's covered in snow. It's obvious he's been pelted in the head a few times
it's obviously
now.
malice, right? Because I mean, snowball fights are all in good fun.
Normally,
when you're not doing it to people that aren't willing participants, right?
Exactly.
Like obviously, like they don't want anything to do with this, and they're just having shit thrown at
People
them.
who threw the snowballs at cops should be prosecuted.
Right, and the thing is people will be like, really? You want to prosecute them for a snowball? Really? Really? Well, like, imagine if a gang of people walked up to you, like you were just walking home, and then a group of like 50 people walked up with snowballs and started pelting you. Do you think you'd feel the same? Would you be like, well, actually, it was just snowball. This is all snowball fight, all good fun. And they were pelting you as hard as they could. Yeah, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like,
The Police Benevolent Association agrees.
But these crowds were...
Julio is back? Welcome back, Julio. Now, Julio, you know who to not talk about, right, Julio?
massive, and
They're gonna get you. They're gonna get you again.
reveals the real problem facing the city right now.
In New York City yesterday, there's a video captured of punks.
Punks is definitely an interesting choice of word.
Basically hitting cops one after the next. They even go as far as running up to the cops with chunks of snow and smashing it. And these cops do nothing.
Yeah, if they're doing the smashing with it, I don't know if it's chunks of snow anymore as much as like almost ice. So that's probably pretty rough to be hit with.
They say nothing. I guess they feel as if they can't. The mayor doesn't have their back.
They can't.
They'll be the ones who wind up getting sued, and nothing is done.
Because, yeah, imagine the backlash if they had actually taken action against people throwing snowballs at them. Because you know it would blow up.
First of all, my entire...
Can you imagine if all of these cops just one day, they were like, you know what, actually, this isn't worth it. Like, fuck all of this. Like, we all quit at the same time. Like, can you imagine what would happen?
Weren't a lot of them doing that in Michigan regarding the stuff in January?
family.
Oh my
as
goodness.
cops, going back all the way to
I
my
kind of feel like they should, honestly, at this point. I would honestly love to see that happen in like one of these blue cities.
This would have happened decades ago.
So they
when
can
were
fucking
all
eat
cops.
crow, you know what I mean?
I can tell you right now, all the cops would have walked off the job today by now if the cops saw that the mayor was doing nothing to protect them, especially in this sort of video that we just see there.
Can you imagine if that happened?
So I say to the cops, I have the utmost respect for you all time. I donate to cops. I always am of the blue.
I mean, you shouldn't support cops no matter what, but they do definitely get a lot of flack, too. I don't know how it is in America or in the cities. I imagine there's probably more corruption in the cities. But, you know, they take a lot of shit.
But this is one of those times I'm saying, hey, man,
See, like, you can clearly see there, he's taken quite a few shots to the head already.
You are just, you're
Oh, they're approaching me. I should cover my face before I do anything else.
burying more than your pride. Let New York City just watch what it's like without having cops. Move to Florida. We need
Yeah,
cops.
exactly,
We'll
that's what I
take you.
mean.
Go to other states. You don't need to do this.
And the crazy part about this is starting pay for the NYPD, it's less than $60,000 a year to live in one of America's most unaffordable
Expensive
cities.
places, yeah,
These
exactly.
police can't even afford to live in the area where the people came out of their apartments and went after them.
Which
a
is
little
insane.
bit more pride in what you do and
Yep.
who you are, because you're not even
Well, that
policing
guy with the
anyone.
hat, I
You're
think he's got
only
snow in one of his
policing
ears.
yourself.
Right, that's right.
You're just
That's really what it is.
Look at that person with the skull mask there, too. Like, yeah, real subtle.
You're a
Yeah,
cop.
you're basically there to get flogged. Like your entire existence is to be everyone's bitch. To be like you're like the
Yep.
person in the stockades in the town square that everyone throws tomatoes at. That's basically all you are at this point.
to police yourself, because this mayor.
Right, and then they only call you and then they beg for it when they really need you. But then when they don't need, they're like an abusive friend. You know, like an abusive friend that
Well,
only
that's what the
calls you when
public's
they
like
need
in
you.
general.
And then all the other times they just don't even want to talk to you. They don't even respond to your texts or anything like that. And then yeah, they're fair weather friends. They're terrible.
and
Like
all the
abusive
politicians in
friends.
there, they don't want
No.
you.
Yeah,
they're aiming
They don't
for the
need you.
head.
They wanted to defund you. Never forget
They still
that.
do.
You're subjecting yourself
still do.
to stress and maybe harm for what? You need to move on. If you're a parent,
Like, if it was like the usual free-for-all for a snowball fight, sure, go ahead. But they're actively targeting the cops.
and your kid, and I don't care if it was an 18-year-old or a 27-year-old in that video, if that's one of your kids, you are a bigger piece.
100%. But where did these people that attacked
I wouldn't even say they're kids. They all look like they're adults. They all look like they're probably over 18.
the police get the idea that that's okay? They're getting it at home. They're getting it from their parents. They're getting it at their schools. They're getting it at
Yep.
their jobs.
There is a lot
It's
from the
all around them.
schools.
That's
The
the
schools are
attitude
definitely
here in New
left-leaning.
York. And you know something? The mayor.
Yeah, I remember, you know, back in my days, I remember when in school they taught you to respect the police. And it was like when I grew up, my dad told me to respect the police.
By not saying anything, he's just doing what the voters who elected him want.
This was disgraceful. It
Oh!
wasn't a joke. It wasn't
Yeah,
a game.
ICE is
it
hard.
was a
Whoa, you
vicious
can't blame-
attack.
The worst part is, seeing the footage, you know that it's obviously a bad thing. But you're definitely going to see people, because it's been so divided lately. You're definitely going to see people being like, oh, the cops are overreacting. You know, they're just being hit by snowballs.
An
Parents, yeah.
assault on two New York City police officers.
Mayor Mamdani
Yes, you're saying that like when a murderer kills the kid, that it's only the parents' fault? Fucking
That is some real stupid logic.
retards, man.
also reacted on X saying,
Like
I've seen the
actual fucking retards, like unreal levels of like mental brain rot retardation.
True.
Like fucking 56K modem fucking brain. It's
Not even
it's
that.
unbelievable, man. It's like every
Really?
time you like tell them something, it's like, hey, you know that two things can be true at once, right? They're
Exactly.
like their brain is literally like
Well, they're relying on they're relying on not understanding in order to make this point. Like, they're actively making the stupidest attack. There's some
It's like
great
every
dial-up
time, just to
noises.
like even fucking answer a question.
videos
even
of kids
even
throwing
process that
snowballs
shit.
at NYPD officers in Washington Square Park. Officers, like all city workers, have been out in a historic blizzard, keeping New Yorkers safe and cars moving. Treat them with respect. If anyone's catching a snowball, it's me. Governor
Sure.
Hochul just
Yeah,
posted on
fucking
X
you
as
got
well,
mail,
saying it's
bro.
never
Thank you,
acceptable to
Governor.
throw anything at a police officer. No major injuries were reported, but police say at least 2 officers took themselves in for treatment. We're
Yeah, no wonder, considering how many times they're getting pelted in the head.
also waiting to hear back from the organizers of the snowball fights.
NYPD recruitment. Okay, I was wrong. $60,000 a year, but the average rent for an
5.5
apartment here
years of service,
is
somewhere to get under
around
26K.
$4,500 a month. And look at this, after
Jeez.
5.5
I don't know
years
how
of service,
believable that
you
is.
still can't afford to live here. And what, to get attacked by the very people you're supposed to be protecting and serving? This doesn't make sense.
Well,
And
That's the entire reason the police are there, to protect and serve people. And, you know, it's obviously also going to be those people causing the issues.
This is unsustainable.
That's right. Mom, get off the phone. I'm playing StarCraft.
For me, it was RuneScape.
A red flag that a lot of people say could mean the end of the city. Something the mayor was recently asked about.
Marsha, go ahead. So I actually have two questions, Mr. Mayor. One on police and one on sanitation. On police, as you know, there's been some pushback about the decision not to hire the 5,000 cops.
Yeah, they're not hiring 5,000 cops now.
But my question is, given the fact that your budgeted headcount is 35,000, and you can't even fill that because of attrition, which is like 250 to 300 every single month. What are you going to do to try to convince people that they want to work in New York City as a police officer? Because you actually have a problem with filling the headcount that you have now, and your reaction to the fact that there's pushback on the 5,000.
Okay, so before we get to his answer, she said 300 police leave the force every single month, which is true.
Really?
We cannot keep the
that.
cops we
That's
have.
insane.
And he just started, and many people say that he ran on an agenda, and the voters that put him in office certainly have an anti-police agenda. But listen to this.
I'll say that we've seen an issue with retention in our department over the last few years. And I've said time and again that for too long, the city has added additional responsibilities onto the NYPD. We see at this point the NYPD responsible for responding to about 200,000 mental health calls a year. And part of our...
Well, yeah. If someone's going around murdering multiple people, that's definitely a mental health call.
But that wasn't the part.
That's just a weird labeling thing, isn't it?
A Department of Community Safety is to start to take that responsibility of mental health crises and task mental health responders with that work.
They're recreating the police. They're recreating a separate secondary police force to make things more complicated. Because mental health intervention is something that should be a thing after the fact or before the fact. In the moment, that's police intervention. Because you may need to respond with force, right? Like, I don't get this. Sure, you can have mental health intervention before the fact to prevent it from happening, and after the fact to prevent it from happening again. But in the middle of the moment, you want the cops there.
And to ensure that police can focus on the work that they signed up to focus on, which is tackling violent crime across the city.
And
yeah, that's just a mislabeling. That's a relabeling of it.
And the Snowball fight and the mayhem, you have to understand, none of this meets the definition of the types of violent crime that the mayor is talking about here. These are just people playing with snow. They're unarmed. Yes, they were climbing on a roof. Yes, they were possibly destroying property.
And again, like how, you know, the reason I don't really buy that
destruction.
argument is like, imagine how a individual person would feel if 20 people chased after them while they're trying to do their job. Say like you're just like sweeping the street and that's your job, or you're a delivery person, like you're trying to like deliver stuff.
Yeah, they're definitely swarming them like a mob, though. I mean, just look at the crowd.
From like here and there, and then people just start like a group of 20 people started pelting you with snowballs like everywhere you went. Like obviously that'd be a problem. So like, what are we even talking about?
Property, trespassing, doing all that, but we don't need the police for that.
The roof I don't so much have an issue with because they're not really doing anything destructive as far as I can tell.
That's why we need this Department of Public Safety. So when you hear people say, hey, the whole police force should just quit, I mean, there are people who want to see that happen so they can get this public safety department.
Wanting all the police to quit just seems like a push for more crime.
Faster.
The work that's already been done, which is tackling violent crime across the city. And I'm also appreciative of the work that's already been done by my police commissioner within the department of starting to bridge that gap. We're seeing larger and larger classes also being hired towards that end.
That you want to improve their quality of life by saying...
But we just said that we're not going to hire 5,000 cops. So what do you mean
You're also losing 300 a month is what you said earlier, so...
larger and larger classes? Like, I get it, we've got a budget crunch, but the budget is so astronomical, there should be no crunch.
Zoran Mamdani ran on a promise to make New York affordable.
A mandate for a city we can afford.
Last week, he unveiled a budget that is, in a word, unaffordable. New York has been fiscally profligate for so long that the headline number, $127 billion, produces little shock. But for perspective, these are similar to the annual expenditures of a mid-sized nation.
In their defense, New York probably has the population of a mid-sized nation too. So,
with all the expenses a country requires, like Greece or Thailand,
how do the populations compare, though, is the question.
Devoted to governing one city.
Because it's fraud.
New York City's budget has ballooned in recent years. Michael Bloomberg's last budget, adopted for fiscal year 2014, totaled about $70 billion. So in little more than a decade, the budget has nearly doubled.
Well, that also shows inflation is going to shit, too.
Faster than inflation.
Sure, faster than inflation officially. But I mean, I've seen prices of food here in Canada basically double in the last 5 years. So, I mean, it wouldn't be overly surprising. There's probably some corruption involved. There always is in government. But it's something that should be examined. But I don't feel it's too suspicious.
All fraud, because there's nothing to show for it.
And much of it has happened as the city has been losing the one thing that makes big government easier to finance. People.
Yeah, the problem is they're increasing the taxes, so obviously they're losing people.
New York City's population fell sharply amid the pandemic with a 5% decline from...
That looks a lot bigger just from the way they've broken down the numbers, but I mean, that is a 400,000, 500,000 person drop, I guess.
April 2020 to July 2022. More recent city reports show a rebound, but
also part of that population drop is probably deaths from COVID, because I heard there were quite a few of them. Well, I don't know how many there were. I've heard there were a lot of them in New York, especially because it was handled pretty poorly.
The city remained below its 2020 baseline as of 2024.
And some people are saying the population loss here.
Yeah, who wants to live there, right? There's like high taxes. It just sucks.
The arithmetic is brutal. A larger bill is divided among fewer payers. Per person, the imbalance
Taxes have
is
to go
stark.
up. They have
Using the Lincoln Institute's fiscally standardized numbers, New York's general spending in 2023 was more than 30% higher per capita than Los Angeles.
Okay, that's
and
insane.
more than double Houston. And what do New Yorkers get for
Nothing.
this? Look at New York City schools. The largest school district in the country.
The worst schools in the country.
The city's education budget has climbed while enrollment has shrunk.
What a scam.
The DOE budget has risen from roughly $34 billion
I imagine part of that's probably
2019
teacher wages,
to over
I hope.
$40 billion, while the
teachers
DOE says
well in the
per
best
student spending is projected to reach nearly $35,000
That's
in
like a
fiscal
college
year
education.
2026, among the highest in the...
In fact, that's several times a college education here in Canada, because it's partially subsidized by the government.
Nation. The outputs, graduation numbers, test scores, and reading levels are at best middling, often...
Middling's a polite way of putting it. I've heard reading scores are going real bad. Like, I remember as a kid, they said something, like here in Canada was like, maybe less than 10% were illiterate. But I know recent stats seem to be suggesting like 40 to 50% of Gen Z, Gen Alpha are going to be illiterate.
Comparable to places that spend a fraction of what New...
That also makes me think, considering how illegal immigration seems to be in America right now, how much of that ties into the immigration issue as opposed to the low quality of the schools. But I haven't checked the numbers.
New York does. Now come the taxes, because every political...
But that's how people can vote for somebody that wants to come in and tax the rich. They've been taught nothing. The people throwing the snowballs in the park and attacking NYPD officers went to these schools. They graduated and they believe that the police are the problem. They believe that America's the problem. They believe that if you're successful and you start a business and you're able to buy a home, that you should be punished.
I don't know why they would allow like taxpayer, like, think about how stupid this is, okay? So you're telling me that they use our tax dollars as American citizens, our tax dollars, they use them to teach the future generation to hate America. Why the fuck would we pay for that?
That is very bad.
Why the fuck would we pay for that? Doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
Why would you? That's like...
America has a lot of problems, but at the same time, like, you want to teach them how to fix them, not just complain about it. Why do I keep hitting that?
Hey guys, you want to pay me to kick you in the balls?
For it because you
That's dangerous, Leaflet. Some people are into that.
cheated the system, you've disenfranchised people, you've helped no one. That's literally what they think. And the mayor is a representation of what the people here think.
For high earners, the combined state plus city income tax reaches 14.776%.
That is just about what it is around where I live.
Add federal taxes and the combined marginal rate can exceed 50%,
Okay, that's
reaching
insane.
roughly 55%
Man.
on certain investment income.
And then you're
Certain investment income.
paying
state
rent.
tax rates comparable to European countries that provide
Yep.
in return universal health care,
Yeah, that's
free
the
college
problem. They're not
education,
providing the
and
benefits.
amazing infrastructure. New Yorkers get some 300 miles of sidewalk sheds.
300
On
miles of
business
sheds.
taxation, the city is also off the charts. The Citizens Budget Commission reports
of this
that
is
New York
about
City
actually
business
solving the problem,
activity
that's why.
faces the country's highest combined corporate tax
And
rate.
that's going to go up too. Now, look, taxes. What a boring conversation. But you got to understand something. Every single person that wants to go out and attack the police, they're going to need money to fund their lifestyle. They're going to need money for their rent. They're going to
Yup,
need money for their
exactly.
groceries.
You
and
pay
you
for
know
these.
what?
You as like
Yeah,
a
they-
law-abiding citizen
Yeah, there are people that can afford to take a day off to have a snowball fight.
that is doing your
Well, I guess they might have been snowed in. Whatever.
best in life, you subsidize all of these people. Like if you think about it, right? You're literally paying to get cooked. That's exactly what it is. Like every single time.
They're not starting businesses. They're going to be working at one. And if those businesses get punished, they've got less money to help people afford life in the city. So all of this is an unaffordability crisis that the city is
Like
facing.
all of these people fucking around, wasting your tax dollars, right? Because your tax dollars pay for the police. So like
Yeah,
them
that's true.
doing this, these unemployed or people with working part-time that
Well, the police probably would have been there anyway, since they're having an event. You want security to make sure things kind of go okay, as well as sort of in case an ice chunk gets mixed in, for example, you need medical emergency staff. The police often, it depends on the training, double as that too. So having them there would probably happen either way. It does eat into tax money, though.
have too much free time on their hands. These fucking dickheads, they're causing all of this chaos and it's just costing you more money. These cops could be solving actual cases that need to be done.
And raising these numbers, impacting your businesses, impacting your homeowners, impacting your achievers, if you want to call people that have come here and accomplished something, that's just going to drive them out. It's going to push them away. And then who's going to hire the people in the park?
I have the solution for this, but you're not going to like it, chat. We need to remove universal suffrage. Not everyone deserves to vote.
Attacking.
That is a dangerous line of logic. Like, removing the ability for certain people to vote is going to spiral real fast.
Cops. Maybe the police force will hire them.
17.44%, once state, city, and regional layers are stacked. Mamdani wants to hike income and corporate
That's so
rates
crazy.
even further, or else he says he will raise property taxes by almost 10%.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that like women shouldn't be able to vote. I think it should be based on merit because they're
That, like I said, is very dangerous because, I mean, I used to have similar thinking back in my teens, not for, voting, but like, for example, for reproducing, having a certain level of quality, so the children will have a certain level of, lifestyle quality. It's dangerous because that gets into eugenics. But this is dangerous because it gets into classism and racism. Obviously not by initial intention. You want the most, the best of the best. But we've seen how DEI goes to try to equal out those numbers. You end up selecting for certain people. And so, if you're going to remove universal suffrage and have it merit-based, you're going to select, whether intentional or not, for certain groups of people.
there are also dudes who are also stupid. That's why there
Well,
are
yeah,
girls
I'm
that can
probably one
vote
of them.
better than dudes, and there's dudes that are way stupid, too stupid to vote. So I don't really think that doing it along gender lines is a good idea. I think it should be based on merit specifically.
I don't think so. I mean, it would be nice in an ideal world to have it based on merit, but that's kind of iffy. It's sort of intangible. You'd either want the standards to be low enough that most people can qualify easily enough, or high enough and strict enough that it's very difficult to be in it, so it's very controlled. Is the way I would probably think of it at, first thought. For something silly like being a citizen and filing your taxes for X number of years or something in a row, or, being a tax-paying citizen, basically, that would be fine, because then you're kind of above board. You're not relying on welfare, so you're not voting specifically in regards to that. And that way it's still classist, but it kind of keeps it to a minimum. Because if it is quote-unquote merit-based or certain other criteria, the major companies or certain politicians are going to take advantage of that to push their own agendas. As for like a really strict means of doing it, I suppose it'd be something like, like parliamentary houses or whatever, where you have a small number of people voting for policies, sort of like now, but it kind of defeats the purpose a bit, and it's going to be the major companies that end up taking up most of those representatives too, because a lot of the current politicians are obviously bought out by the big companies. They're bought out by their sponsors, by the ones that are funding them, and that's absolutely going to happen if you narrow down who can vote too strictly or in certain methods. It's going to be corrupted. Sure, universal suffrage, there's a lot of idiots, but you can still weed out quite a few of those by just making it so, for example, you need ID and you need to be a tax-paying citizen. In other words, have a job.
Property taxes already made up more than 27% of the cost of home ownership in the city as of 2022.
The main argument against removing women from voting, to be honest, is that more women voted are
I guess she's going for the removing women from voting thing because of the historical thing. But I could see it maybe from the emotional perspective, but even then it sounds really silly to me.
retards. That's actually the argument, is that if you were to remove like women from being able to vote, you would call most of the retards from voting.
That I don't know how true that is. Social media would suggest that's pretty accurate, but that isn't an accurate reflection of reality either.
It's the main argument for it, but
it's the main argument. It's not a good argument.
Doesn't actually solve the problem. It's kind of like a band-aid for the problem.
Above the national average. New York is really a prime example of a problem.
It actually does solve the problem. It does in the immediate, yes. In the immediate, it will solve the problem. That's why I said it's a band-aid. It doesn't solve the...
Well, the reason why I'm thinking, because she's saying, it's sorting out idiots. The reason why I'm saying it should be really kind of low standard, like you need to at least meet some very basic criteria, is because it at least demonstrates some level of responsibility and independence. Whereas the current system sounds very corruptible from what I hear in the media for America. I don't know why you wouldn't need ID for it. Because, I think they mentioned it in this video. You need ID to join up for shoveling snow in New York, which is insane. So, you need, here in Canada, you need your social insurance number to get a job. It's really simple to track this stuff. I don't know why they would say you don't need ID for voting. It's in the very, very niche circumstance where you're homeless, so it's hard to get an ID, I could maybe see it. But they probably should be, because their votes would be easy to manipulate as far as welfare goes, because they're going to want to keep their own benefits, they will necessarily vote for a certain party. That's very classist to say, though.
It doesn't solve the root of the problem. It solves it doesn't solve the root of the problem. It solves the what's the word? Symptom. It solves the symptom of the problem, not the...
It doesn't even solve the symptom.
Democrats seem unwilling to confront. Blue cities are out of control, promising more, spending more.
Well, I suppose it's the inherent part of the left, liberal, because they're pushing for new things, they're progressive, they're inherently going to spend more money.
The real problem is democracy itself. Not necessarily democracy, just like universal, like suffrage. Would that be democracy? Does that count?
Universal, uncontrolled suffrage. You don't want, you want some regulation, right? Because otherwise it's going to lead to corruption or manipulation really fast.
Like, I guess that would be like a pure democracy. That's not what we mean, though. I guess you're right. Technically. You're technically right. Yeah, you're right.
You want the people who have... Well, I'm trying to think of how to word this. You want the people who are going to have to deal with the consequences of it to be the ones that are kind of voting for it.
You're right, technically.
Because this is what the voters want.
And in the case of those that are relying exclusively on welfare, that is dangerous because they're going to vote for, obviously, in their benefit, for more welfare. Because everyone's going to vote for their own benefit, right? Why would... It'd be very stupid to not do that. Whatever that perceived benefit might be. In the case of America right now, some people are perceiving that as being allowing illegal immigrants in for some reason. But I forget where I was going with this.
New York City's actually...
I still think that I still believe in like representative government in terms of like people being able to vote, but
Well, yeah.
I only agree with people that have a stake being represented, because
That's it. Yeah, you want someone with a stake involved. But if that stake is welfare, then that is going to be detrimental to the collective. That's going to be detrimental to everyone for the push of their own benefits financially. Much like if you have it too strict and have it so only the major companies can kind of manipulate the votes, then they're going to push for their benefits, and that's going to be detrimental to the collective as well. So having too many people reliant on the government and having too many people trying to manipulate the government are both negatives. You want some sort of middle ground.
because other people they don't have a stake in any of this. They don't do anything.
Really lucky that we got Zoran Mamdani. At least,
you know, of course, I'd be willing to hold myself to the same standard, obviously. Right, whatever that standard is. Like, it would be everybody would have it. If I don't meet the standards, I don't get a vote either.
He's sad.
That reminds me, I believe, if I remember correctly, Asmongold pushed for suffrage being tied to, I think, land ownership or something like that. Like it used to be in the past, or I believe. My memory's a bit fuzzy on this. And even that, I'd say, isn't a reliable way to do it because of how land ownership is going these days, where all the land is being bought up by the major companies. It's very easy to manipulate that so that the major companies are the only ones that are able to vote.
Sounds reasonable when he goes on his socialism tour talking about all the free stuff we're going to get. We could have got somebody who doesn't sound so reasonable.
A democratic republic doesn't mean necessarily everyone can vote. Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
And believes the same things or even more extreme versions of the same things, because that's what the voters here want.
If the state legislature does not pass his wealth tax, a flat tax on the...
Does that Indian guy not look like William Defoe?
I don't see it.
I don't see it.
Earnings over those earning more than $1 million.
A flat tax.
He vows instead to impose a 9.5% property tax.
It's the first flat tax we've ever had in America.
More than 100,000 commercial
It's just only
buildings.
for rich people.
The Partnership for New York City is a business advocacy group representing more than 300 top businesses. We're joined by Steve Phillip.
Yeah.
He is the partnership's new president and CEO. Steve,
don't come here and
to the
start
show.
one. Don't do it.
New position here. What are you hearing from New York City's biggest businesses? Well, let's call them New York's biggest employers. About either of
they're
Mayor
leaving.
Mamdani's tax plans.
They're trying to get out.
Well, so we have 800,000 employees collectively within kind of the partnership umbrella. So it's the largest employers that you would think of, names that you know. And people are generally concerned. I mean, the administration has been in place for 2 months, and we've had conversations.
Yeah, you want those kind of taxes federally instead of, exclusively to a certain city or state. Because that's going to get everyone to move out, because it's just financially beneficial for them to do so, and the big companies can afford it. And the small companies are just going to be punished for it.
around income tax increases, corporate tax increases, now property tax increases. So, if you're looking for a place to invest, you tend to look for places with certainty. And the environment right now in New York.
Pure democracy cringe. Managed democracy.
Yeah, managed democracy.
Real shit.
No,
Real
it is
shit.
certain. I disagree. It's certainly headed in the wrong direction. There are certainly
with certainty and
free democracy would be nice, but we've already seen that that's being manipulated just from the way they're pushing benefits for certain subsets of people in order to get more votes.
The environment right now in New York City.
Well, I wouldn't say benefits so much as protections, I suppose.
Is anything but certain.
No, it is certain. I disagree. It's certainly headed in the wrong direction. There are certainly going to be higher taxes for somebody. And if you have a business here, it's certainly going to be harder to attract people to come to New York and want to work at your business because whatever salary you offer them, well, the local government's going to take a cut of that. And then when these people go out and try to find an apartment, the rent's $5,000 a month. If they buy a home, the taxes just went up. Good luck hiring people to work at your business here. You can't even staff it. You're going to be paying through the roof in labor, and your employees are going to get nothing for it. They're not even going to come.
Well, look, I think that there is real concern around, New York City.
At this point, they're going to have to make it so that your job comes with an apartment supplied by the employer. And even then, that's going to be a massive expense for the employer, too. It might incentivize lowering the rents a little bit, because a lot of these places probably also own properties, but no.
Policies moving far and far to the left and being less competitive relative to Texas, Florida, and
your home being tied to your job is a real quick way to have that abused.
Other
That's
states.
what the voters want.
For the first time, you see more financial service jobs in Texas than you do in New York. People don't realize that.
Hell yeah.
And many of the CEOs, we represent the largest corporations. It's only the large corporations, and many of them are saying that
Good, fuck
their
them,
plans
honestly.
for growth and expansion in New York are
They deserve it.
really put on the back burner now as they explore elsewhere.
They fucking deserve it. 100%.
No growth. You hear that? No economic growth. That means no jobs. That means no expansion. That means no new opportunity. It does mean that those three things are going to happen somewhere else. And what that's going to do is that's going to tell people, hey, don't go to New York unless you want to be part of the mob that attacks police in the park. This is the only part of the country where you can accomplish that. If you want to accomplish something else that might actually benefit your future, well, you're going to have to do that somewhere else.
Like I said, I think a lot of the rhetoric at a city hall is concerning. It's still early days, so hopefully, we get to right the ship over the next couple months. But
how's that going to happen?
We're kind of wait and see.
How can you do that when the voters want this?
Tax hike plan, you could look at it as a threat, or you could look at it as, in essence, an inevitability.
Yeah. There it is.
Because there is a hole, and by June, he, by law, needs to balance the budget. Are you bracing your members for something like this?
Well, look, he originally said there was a $12 billion gap, and we said the same day that we don't think there's a $12 billion gap. And then a couple days later was revised to $7 billion based on Wall Street overperforming. We think that $7 billion is going to shrink further
definitely.
As collections come in April, and you'll see that gap be relatively small. But, obviously the rhetoric is concerning. And, there's a bigger picture that, Texas embraces the energy industry. California, despite being regulated very heavily, embraces the tech industry. Massachusetts, biotech. When you think about financial services here in New York, the success is often met with skepticism.
Right, because those are the people who have cheated the system. Those are the people who are part of the problem. You see, if anybody who does anything that is remotely connected to the right side of history, those people are all the problem. They're the status quo. They're the part of America that's kept us down forever. When that is where the engine of success in America has come from. The engine of success in America doesn't come from lawlessness. It doesn't come from a...
Do you guys want like the cliff notes to all of politics? This really is like if you want like the easy version, like the absolute brain dead, like flowchart. Is it something a commie would say? If the answer is yes, then it sucks. That's basically the flow.
That's not really true, though. It eventually gets corrupted to suck, so it needs to be regulated better. But it's not inherently true. For example, universal health care is good, but it's definitely gone to crap. Because I remember in the 90s, universal healthcare was still a thing here in Canada. I remember it being fine back then when I was a kid. But nowadays, you'll wait in a hospital waiting room for, 12 plus hours. Whereas back when I was a kid, it was maybe 15 to 30 minutes tops.
Flowchart, really.
Hacking.
It's because part of it is that they're actively trying to make it fail. But I don't know what the incentive for them would be for that. But it seems like there would be ways to incentivize that improving. But I guess they're not doing that.
The law abiding, it doesn't come from attacking police. It comes from accomplishing things. And if this city doesn't want to accomplish things, if it wants to be a place for those who are determined to accomplish nothing, unless it's illegal, we're going to have big problems. What do you think about that? I will see you in the next video.
Yeah, that was a really good video. That's crazy. Like honestly, I kind of feel like the only thing that there is to happen to these places, like New York, California, for instance, is I think that they just need, this is like similar to like, have you ever had a case where you've known a person, they are just really, really baka, and you're like, there's nothing that can fix you until you crash and burn. That's the only thing that's going to save you, right? And it's like, I feel that way about
some of them.
New York and San Francisco, California. I just feel like,
who the fuck is Leaflit?
I feel like it needs to
Yeah, I just feel like, who the fuck is Leaflit?
accelerate, and then we could just get over it, we could just be over it, and then everyone will realize like, oh, we fucked up really bad. Oh, this was a bad idea.
But yeah, that's it. See ya.